citizenship to people born in this country. We start with a decision in California to strike down that state's ban on gay marriage. Wendy Wright is the president of Concerned Women for America. Wendy, what are you concerned about same-sex marriage and that judge's decision to say that you can't really ban it?
Well, the judge in one fell swoop labeled the millions of Americans who have voted to define marriage as one man and one woman as all bigots, that we're just filled with hatred. And of course, that's not true. This is one activist judge out of San Francisco that's imposed his views upon not only the voters of California, but his intention is for it to impact the rest of the country.
Well, if it's only one judge, I guess your side of this argument has nothing to worry about. But let me ask you this. It goes to the Ninth Circuit out there, a liberal court. Do you think it's going to stop? Do you think they won't just uphold exactly what Judge Vaughn Walker decided the other day? You really think this is the end of your fight, that you're going to win from here on out? And by the way, all the way to the Supreme Court, where the Lawrence decision, according to Judge Scalia, opened the door for the very kind of decision we saw yesterday in San Francisco, didn't it? Isn't that your fear?
Let's remember that this judge, Judge Walker, was overturned already in this case by both the Ninth Circuit and the U.S. Supreme Court. He so mishandled this case.
Wait a minute, overturned?
That they had to yes, in rulings, he wanted to open it up to. He changed the
you mean they've stayed his decision, right? But let me ask you about the ruling. Do you really? You're not worried. Let me ask you where you stand on the. Let's face it, a district court judge isn't going to decide this. This is probably going to the Supremes. But if you look at the decision they made about sodomy, where they said that couldn't be outlawed down in Texas, that they will probably look at that value again of liberty in the 14th Amendment and say liberty permits people to have same-sex marriage, just as the Liberty Clause permits to have sexual relations between the same genders. Aren't you afraid that's going to happen? I think you are. That's my hunch.
And liberty does not permit people to redefine words. In this case, we need to look at the ruling, because that's what the higher courts are going to look at. And Judge Walker, in his ruling, claimed that there are no benefits to children to have a mother and a father. He claimed that it's an archaic view to say that there are differences between men and women. I think when people look at the kind of outrageous statements that just don't comport with reality, they'll see that Judge Walker was using his position on this court to impose his own views, and he mishandled the trial itself in order to manipulate the case.
Let me figure out where you're coming from. Do you think it's all right for a gay person to teach in high school, in a public school?
You know, this is talking about
yes or
marriage.
No? I'm asking you about it. I'm asking where you're coming from.
Chris,
because I'm wondering whether you're just... No, I'm asking how broad is your opposition to gay rights is what I'm trying to figure out.
No, I think you're trying to change the subject because you realize the majority of Americans do define marriage as one man and one woman.
I'm trying to understand what this argument's about. Is it about the gay orientation of people? Is it about two people getting together of the same gender? Maybe they're not going to have sex. Who knows? They just want to get married. How does anybody know what goes on in a marriage?
Chris,
a lot of people who are married, by the way, don't have sex.
Nobody was talking about sex, Chris.
Well, what are you talking about? What is your opposition to two people of the same gender having a marriage? What is your opposition to it?
Chris, people are free to make their own living arrangements. They're not free to redefine marriage. Marriage does impact the rest of society, and there is a common good, especially for passing on to children, to have a mother and a father.
How does two people of the same gender getting together in marriage stop anyone else from one sex marrying another sex? How does it limit there's not a limited number of marriage licenses, and if some gay couples take them up, there won't be enough for the other side. Are you suggesting there's somehow a limit here? That somehow... No, I'm serious, because people are talking like somehow gay marriage or same-sex marriage reduces somehow the number of parents of different... Obviously, there's an advantage. It's nice to have a mother and a father. I agree with you on that. But most kids, and a lot of kids in America, they don't have both parents, one from either gender. So you're setting this ideal is fine, and it's a very good value perhaps for you to hold or for me to hold. But it shouldn't be the law, and should we say that people cannot get married if they're from the same gender? I wonder what you're getting at. How does it, by the way, hurt traditional marriage to have gay marriage?
Let's look at what's happened in Massachusetts and in other parts of the country, that places in which same-sex marriage was imposed. There ends up being discrimination and prejudice against people who believe that marriage is between one man and one woman. In Massachusetts, school children are taught, even against their parents' wishes, about homosexuality as young as kindergartners. In New Mexico, a photographer was sued because she declined to photograph have a same-sex ceremony. So yes, the idea of same-sex marriage and imposing it on us as a legal entity does result in that it leads to discrimination and prejudice against people who believe that marriage is between one man and one woman.
What is your thoughts about where this is going?
You mean legally or culturally?
Yeah, under the law. Do you think the courts are going to uphold it? The Supreme Court's going to uphold it? Do you think Judge Kennedy may well? Judge Kennedy, I'm looking at Anthony Kennedy because he was with the majority in the Lawrence case in Texas where they said it was all right to have well, Sodom, if you want to call it that, between two people, and even those two people of the same gender. The courts wouldn't get involved in that. And you're saying what in that regard? Because that's where Scalia said, I'm afraid that ruling will open the door to the Supreme Court saying that same-sex marriage is okay, that should be protected.
I think we'll have to wait and see. I frankly can't divine what Justice Kennedy is going to do. I think we can look at the facts of the case, though. And the facts of the case are that evidence was presented that marriage between one man and woman provides a benefit to children and to society. Sadly, the judge in the case so intimidated the witnesses that much of the evidence was not allowed to be presented. So he manipulated the case in that way. I wonder if the Supreme Court is going to look at the true facts regarding marriage. Or
you have any what are your problems with Judge Walker? You seem to have a problem with him personally. What's your problem with him?
Well, look at how he handled the case, how he mishandled the case. He manipulated the case to intimidate the witnesses, to keep them from testifying. He wanted to do
I understood that he said that they had a weak case, like the Attorney General of California did not defend the law of California. Wasn't that the real issue? There wasn't a case made on behalf of the state law?
Well, let's remember who the Attorney General is. That's Jerry Brown. But
well, what does that tell you? You don't like him either. These are people you don't like. Go ahead. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with them. I understand you don't like them, but what's wrong with them?
No. You know, Chris, please.
You're laughing at people here.
No.
You're laughing at public officials. I wonder what the joke is. That's what I can't figure out.
Chris, let's take a breath. The Judge Walker manipulated the rules in the case to intimidate the witnesses on behalf of marriage, which in fact it did. So a number of witnesses declined to testify, and then he dismissed the testimony of the two witnesses, just simply said, "Oh, it's irrelevant." And then he claimed that those of us that believe that marriage is between one man and one woman are irrational and bigoted.
Okay, I don't know why you keep talking about one man and one woman. I haven't heard a big case for polygamy lately. I don't know why you keep saying one man and one woman. Where's that phrase coming from?
Because in the judge's ruling, he actually said that there should two people of the same sex or someone who loves someone of both sexes. That opens the door to polygamy. Judge Walker opened the door to polygamy.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like you got a real problem with the gay orientation of people, to me. You don't want to talk about teachers. You don't want to talk about the whole thing seems to be bothering you.
Chris, I think you have a problem with talking about marriage. You keep diverting the topic.
I'm just trying to figure out what your opposition is based upon, and I still don't get it. It's not going to affect the marriage between a man and a woman. Tell me how it affects a marriage between a man and a woman. Just give me that quick answer. How does it affect a marriage between a man and a woman if people of the same sex get married?
Because homosexuality is then taught to their children in the schools. It does, and it impacts our religious beliefs to be able to live out our beliefs, that we then end up being persecuted. Look at what happened to the people who supported Prop 8 in California.
So this is going to end up leading to the persecution of straight couples, right?
Look at what happened in California.
Isn't that what you're saying? You just said it's going to lead to the persecution is it going to lead to the persecution of straight couples?
Look at what happened in California and in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Look at the facts.
Okay. Thank you, Wendy Wright, for coming on. Joining us now is Newsweek Howard.